And we are glad that you're here in the city of New York. Thank you for being with us for the AFA Today broadcast. It is a rainy one as the shot outside the studios on the streets of Manhattan demonstrate for you. But we have got a lot to get to in the next hour, and I hope that you will stay with us. Not the least of which is a story that I'm totally baffled by out of North Dakota. Oh, Kev, there's not any real news that comes from the North Dakota. There is actually, in Fargo today. There's a bunch of people protesting something, celebrating something that I'm not sure I understand the celebration of, and I want to break that down for you. But before I do, I just want to remind you: are you making plans to go to the Cove with AFA? If you have not done that yet. It's going to be a great time. Governor Mike Huckabee is one of the featured guests. Tim Wildman, whole bunch of the cast and crew of AFA are going to be there. But Governor Mike Huckabee, the man who wrote the foreword to my most recent bestseller, and a man who I think is one of the nicest men in all the earth. You can search far and wide, and you won't find a nicer guy than Micah Huckabee in most corners of this planet. But anyway, he's going to be with us, and details and information all found at afa.net, and just click on the big, beautiful banner of the Cove there and make plans to join us. All right, let me get straight into the issue of the day. This story, Planned Parenthood, by the way, is popping up all over the place because we reported to you last week that in Texas they are taking the books, and they're examining very carefully what Planned Parenthood in Texas did, and Planned Parenthood in Texas ripped off Texas taxpayers to the tune of about $1.4 million, and so they're demanding that they pay it back. And of course, the Planned Parenthood supporters promptly went out in the streets and started chanting "Hail Satan." Evidently, anytime you oppose abortion in any manner or fashion, now the way to respond to it is to chant "Hail Satan." I don't know what that's about. I don't know how the two got connected. Actually, I kind of have an opinion about that, but I'm not going to speculate on it. But the Hail Sataners are out there saying "Hail Satan," and they're mad because Texas said you can't rip off Texas taxpayers by filing fraudulent claims for people that didn't qualify through the Medicaid program, all these other things. Well, now there's a story. It's on onenewsnow.com today, and I want you to go there and I want you to read it, that talks about how the folks in Texas got this through, and they actually stared down Planned Parenthood. In fact, Planned Parenthood ended up losing. And so people in Louisiana went, hey, maybe that can happen over here too. So the folks in Louisiana are now saying, well, we're going to start taking a look at the books and seeing what we should be doing. Maybe Planned Parenthood's ripping us off as well. So this story is on onenewsnow.com. After a crackdown in Texas, the state of Louisiana wanted to take a closer look at their funding for Planned Parenthood. So attorney Dorinda Boardley of the Bioethics Defense Fund says the same business is shopping for land in Louisiana to build a 7,000 square foot facility to commit elective abortions. Why? Why would any state want Planned Parenthood to come in and build a 7,000 square foot facility to commit elective abortions? It just seems insane. Anyway, Boardley's organization, the Bioethics Defense Fund, and the Louisiana Right to Life have both called on Governor Bobby Jindal, who I believe is a very strong pro-life governor, to end state funding of Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast, which received $500,000 in taxpayer funds from the state in 2012. That's according to LifeSite News. And Boardley says any business that defrauds state and federal government needs to have their license suspended and serious investigation to look into that. And that's totally agree. And if they ripped off Texas taxpayers to the tune of $1.4 million, do you think they might have ripped off Louisiana to the tune of about $500,000? Oh, I think so. I think it's entirely possible. So go get them. That's what I say. Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast's jurisdiction includes Louisiana. Boardley says PPGC, that's Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast, operates 10 abortion clinics in Texas and 2 in Louisiana, and plans to build a $4.2 million facility in New Orleans. Come to New Orleans, because no one will put you up in greater style for you to execute your child than Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast. 7,000 square feet of nothing but children killing chambers, just for your pleasure. Come to Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast this summer for your vacation. I mean, that's quite an ad, isn't it? They let's build the biggest warehouse we possibly can to kill as many children as possible. It's just, wow. So anyway, Board Lee, attorney Dorinda Board Lee of the Bioethics Defense Fund, she says, so if these same business operators are defrauding the Medicaid program in Texas, it's almost certain the same practices are happening in Louisiana, and that should be considered before being allowed to build a $4.2 million, 7,000 square foot baby killing chamber. A 2012 report from ADF suggests Planned Parenthood could be responsible for as much as $99 million of waste and fraud. And you know that, well, what does President Obama say right at the beginning of this broadcast every day? I will not yield. Planned Parenthood will not yield. Sorry, Mr. President, you will if we knuckle your kneecaps under. I'm just saying you have to. So if we catch Planned Parenthood in the act and start taking money away from them, well, that's you don't have much say over that. Actually, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Just want to point that out for you. 7,000 square foot baby killing warehouse. How big is 7,000 square feet? Like, I'm thinking of like our home. I live in a very small home, and our home's about 1,800 square feet of total usable living space. So like 7 of my homes put together. That's a lot of baby killing chambers. $4.2 million to build. Anyway, that story is at onenewsnow.com. You can go and see it for yourself. Your reaction to this, 888-589-8840. I know we're on in Louisiana. I would love Louisianians, to tell us what they feel about this. 888-589-8840. But I want to go north. I want to go to North Dakota. Because up in North Dakota, the North Dakota abortionists haven't quite figured out what they did in Texas. The North Dakotans. Because according to the Associated Press, a judge ruled this morning. No, this is Thursday. I'm sorry. It was on Wednesday. A judge ruled on Wednesday to block a North Dakota law that requires doctors who perform abortions to have hospital admitting privileges, after opponents of the bill argued it would shut down abortion clinics. Okay. And a pro-abortion group is actually chanting, abortion providers are heroes. I know. It doesn't have much rhythm to it. Doesn't sound very... it's not a good groove. Can't get into a good chant. Abortion providers are heroes. It's just, it doesn't flow off the tongue very well. They need to work on their marketing side. But here's what that first paragraph of the Associated Press story really means, and I want you to comprehend this. In Texas, the legislation that was recently passed was passed for a very specific reason. And the obviously we want to end abortion. That's one good thing. So we can stop killing kids after 20 weeks now in Texas. That's a great thing. But there was another piece of this bill that all those people that were marching, the Hail Satanist Sataners, is that how we refer to them? If they chant Hail Satan, are they Sataners? Satanites? Whatever. They're out there chanting Hail Satan, trying to shout down the pro-lifers that are singing Amazing Grace. Very compelling picture of the left versus the right in America and like what they think of things. And by the way, in my first book, my first chapter of the first book was spent telling you the difference between the left and the right. And the bottom line of it is the right believes in God and that God is important and that he's above them, outside of them, authoritative over them. And the left believes that he's not. And in the debate in Texas, my little snapshot theory was proven completely true, to the degree that the pro-abortion people were chanting Hail Satan at the pro-life people who were just there to pray for the lives of kids and urge the passage of the legislation. But in that fight, a very specific piece of the legislation was very important. And we had on a medical doctor, Dr. Donna, I'm drawing a blank. I remember her name. Campbell, Dr. Donna Campbell. No one told me. I remembered that all on my own. Dr. Donna Campbell came on. Dr. Donna Campbell was on this broadcast. She is a medical practitioner, emergency room physician, right? So she's a doctor. Oh, and by the way, she's a woman. Most she's are. But she's a woman and she's a doctor. And she was in favor of this bill. Wow. According to like everybody that does news right down the street from me here in New York, I mean, heads just would explode at the possibility of that even being possible. How could a woman who's a doctor be in favor of the legislation that went down in Texas? Well, there were several reasons. One, she happens to believe that you shouldn't kill children either, so she was all in favor of not killing children after 20 weeks. I know, a woman and a doctor both believed that. Oh, my goodness. But beyond that, she said, you know what, there's other pieces of this bill that are very important, and one of them is that we're going to require people that perform surgical procedures to have hospital admitting privileges. Now, why is that? Well, hospitals are fairly particular about the doctors that they let come in and use their facilities. You know, like they wouldn't let me come in and do open heart surgery on somebody. First of all, I'd pass out the minute we'd start. And secondly, I have no experience doing what I would need to do to do the open heart surgery. So it's a good idea not to have like medical school flunkies doing the actual surgeries that are actual surgery. Well, an abortion is definitely a surgery for the woman. It's an execution to the child, but it's definitely a surgery to the woman. And so what this bill said was, well, we're not going to let medical flunkies just be operating on women, you know, in their garages, in warehouses. Wait, didn't Planned Parenthood just say they want to build a big warehouse? Man, this is just too hard to keep track of. Anyway, the Texas legislation said we're not going to let medical flunkies do surgical procedures on women in their garages, in their living rooms, in their Kermit Gosnell tribunal memorial facilities. Because, you know, Kermit Gosnell in Philly, the problem with him was that he was very untidy. There were years of blood stains on different things, and I don't know where all that blood came from, but I'm pretty sure it was both woman and child blood and it was really gross. The police that went in when they busted him said it was one of the most foul things they'd ever seen. And this was a clinic that was set up to do one thing: perform surgery on women to kill their children. So they'd cut off feet and put them in jars, and they had blood all over the place, and it was just really a disgusting thing. Well, sure enough, he gets found guilty and sent off to prison, where he's now, you know, spending the rest of his time rightfully. And all of a sudden, people in Texas go, hey, well, wait a second. There's a clinic down there in Houston that looks an awful lot like that. Oh, and there's this one over there in that place, and then upstate and over here and across there. And before you know it, there were people going, we really need to pass some legislation so that we don't have these guys operating here in Texas. And so what the Texas legislation did is it said you have to have hospital admitting privileges to be able to do surgery on women. The judge in North Dakota just said, no, we're not going to require that. Your thoughts on that? 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. This is AFA Today. I'm Kevin McCullough. So glad you're here.